The discipline you build now will define your 2026. The world does not slow down to give clarity. It moves forward with or without your consent, carrying noise, pressure, and uncertainty along with it. Most people respond by tightening their grip on things that cannot be held: outcomes, recognition, certainty, control over others, control over the future. This effort drains them. It leaves them anxious, reactive, and divided within themselves. Stoicism begins from a simpler observation. Life is not asking you to manage everything. It is asking you to manage yourself. The discipline you build now is not preparation for some abstract future. It is already shaping who you are becoming, not in dramatic moments, but in ordinary ones. In how you speak when frustrated, in how you act when no one is watching, in what you tolerate, what you chase, and what you quietly refuse. The year ahead will bring challenges you cannot predict. Change will arrive without explanation. Some efforts will fail. Some losses will not make sense. None of this is new. What is new is the question of how you will meet it. Stoic discipline is not harshness. It is not suppression. It is clarity applied daily. It is the steady refusal to surrender your inner order to external disorder. It is learning where your responsibility ends and where acceptance must begin. Many live as if peace is something granted later, once conditions improve. The Stoics understood that peace is a consequence of alignment, not circumstance. You do not wait for the world to become reasonable. You become reasonable within it. This reflection is not meant to inspire urgency or fear. It is meant to restore proportion. The work you avoid today will not disappear. The habits you repeat will compound. The mind you train will be the mind you live with. The discipline you build now will define your whether you choose it consciously or allow it to form by neglect. Most people exhaust themselves by fighting the wrong battles. They wake each day, already tense, already braced against the world, as if life was something to overpower. They attempt to manage outcomes, influence opinions, predict futures, and secure certainty where none exists. When these efforts fail, as they inevitably do, frustration turns inward, as anxiety or outward as anger. The Stoics identified this error clearly. It is not that people lack effort, it is that their effort is misdirected. There are things that belong to you, and things that do not. Your judgments belong to you. Your intentions belong to you. Your actions, chosen deliberately, belong to you. Everything else operates according to forces beyond your command. Other people's choices, economic shifts, social moods, accidents, illness, timing, luck. When you attempt to govern what is not yours, you trade clarity for agitation. Modern life quietly encourages this confusion. You are invited to monitor reactions, track approval, anticipate trends, and optimize every aspect of existence. The result is not control, but constant vigilance. The mind never rests, because it is always scanning for threats to an imagined sense of authority. Stoic discipline begins by withdrawing consent from this illusion. This withdrawal does not make you passive, it makes you precise. Instead of spreading attention thinly across everything you cannot command, you return it to the small domain where your influence is absolute, not absolute over results, but absolute over response. Anxiety often appears complex, but its structure is simple. It arises when the mind rehearses futures it cannot shape and treats them as obligations. The Stoic response is not reassurance, it is correction. The future does not require your suffering in advance. It requires readiness of character. Anger follows a similar pattern. It emerges when reality refuses to conform to expectation. Someone behaves unfairly. Circumstances feel obstructive. Effort goes unrewarded. The untrained mind treats these moments as violations. The Stoic treats them as information. The world is behaving according to its nature. The only question is whether you will abandon yours. Discipline here does not mean emotional numbness. It means refusing to let emotion dictate judgment. Feeling irritation is natural. Acting from it without examination is optional. This distinction is rarely taught. Many people believe that strength lies in suppression or expression. Stoicism offers a third path: observation followed by reasoned action. You notice the surge of feeling, you acknowledge its presence, and you decide whether it deserves authority. Most emotions shrink when denied immediate command. Control in the Stoic sense is not domination, it is stewardship. You are responsible for the care of your mind, not the management of the universe. When you accept this boundary fully, something unexpected happens. Energy returns, attention sharpens, the constant background tension begins to loosen. Much of modern suffering comes from confusing influence with obligation. You may influence outcomes through effort, but you are not owed specific results. You may speak honestly, but you are not guaranteed understanding. You may act with integrity, but you are not promised reward. Discipline means showing up fully for the action while remaining unattached to the outcome. This is difficult because ego resists it. Ego wants proof. Ego wants recognition. Ego wants assurance that effort will be seen and validated. Stoicism does not deny these impulses, but it does not negotiate with them either. It reminds you that dignity does not depend on applause. When discipline is absent, the mind looks outward for permission to be calm. It waits for circumstances to stabilize, for others to behave better, for uncertainty to resolve. This waiting becomes a way of life. Years pass in a state of conditional peace. Stoic discipline interrupts this pattern. It establishes calm as a personal obligation, not a situational reward. You do not demand that life become easier. You demand that your judgments become clearer. This clarity has practical consequences. When faced with uncertainty, the disciplined mind asks a single question: what is required of me now? Not what guarantees safety, not what eliminates risk, only what aligns action with principle. In work, this means focusing on quality rather than recognition. In relationships, it means speaking truthfully without controlling response. In conflict, it means refusing to surrender self-command even when provoked. In loss, it means allowing grief without adding resentment. The Stoics understood that peace is not fragile. It is compromised only when you outsource it. Each time you say, "I will be calm once this changes," you place your inner state under external jurisdiction. Discipline reclaims that authority. This does not mean retreating from the world. Stoicism is not withdrawal. It is engagement without entanglement. You participate fully, but you do not confuse participation with possession. To build this discipline, repetition matters more than intensity. Small, consistent acts of restraint and clarity shape the mind more reliably than rare moments of resolve. Each time you pause before reacting, you reinforce the habit of choice. Each time you accept what cannot be changed without complaint, you strengthen inner stability. The world will continue to be unpredictable. That is not a problem to solve. It is a condition to prepare for. The disciplined mind does not demand certainty. It demands readiness. As the year approaches, many will set goals aimed at outcomes. Fewer will commit to forming judgment, yet outcomes remain vulnerable to chance. Judgment does not. It travels with you into every circumstance. The discipline you build now is not visible to others. It will not attract immediate attention. It will not generate praise, but it will determine how you stand when pressure arrives, how you speak when tested, and how you endure when control dissolves. This is the foundation. Without it, everything else is fragile. When control is clarified, attention turns inward to a more difficult terrain. Desire, attachment, and ego do not announce themselves as obstacles. They present as necessities.
They insist that peace depends on possession, status, reassurance, or being seen a certain way. In a world built on stimulation and comparison, these demands feel normal. Stoicism treats them as habits to be examined. Desire is not the enemy. Unexamined desire is. When the mind chases what it has not chosen deliberately, it becomes restless. It moves from one want to the next, without settling. Modern systems depend on this restlessness. They reward comparison, amplify dissatisfaction, and train the mind to measure itself against curated images of other lives. The result is quiet erosion of self-command. Stoic discipline interrupts this erosion. By restoring authorship, you decide what is enough. You decide which desires deserve cultivation and which deserve refusal. This decision is not moralistic. It is practical. A desire that destabilizes your judgment costs more than it offers. Attachment operates similarly. People attach not only to possessions and roles, but to narratives. They cling to how things should unfold, how others should behave, how life should reward effort.
When reality diverges, the attachment reveals itself as suffering. The Stoic does not eliminate attachment by force. He loosens it through understanding. Everything that is not yours by nature is temporary by condition. This includes reputation. Ego invests heavily in how it is perceived. It monitors reactions, anticipates criticism, and defends an image. This vigilance feels like protection, but it is bondage. The mind becomes externally referenced, adjusting itself to imagined judgment. Stoicism returns reference inward. The only measure that matters is whether action accords with reason and virtue. This shift is unsettling at first. Without constant validation, the ego feels exposed, yet this exposure is the beginning of freedom. When you stop negotiating your behavior with the crowd, integrity becomes simpler. You act as required, not as applauded. Restraint plays a central role here. Not restraint as denial, but restraint as training. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort not to glorify hardship, but to reduce dependency. When hurt becomes a requirement, the mind grows brittle. When comfort is appreciated but not needed, resilience develops. In modern life, discomfort often appears as boredom, silence, or lack of stimulation. Many flee these states immediately. Phones, noise, and distraction fill every gap. The Stoic treats these gaps as training ground. To sit without escape strengthens attention. To endure mild discomfort without complaint builds confidence that greater discomfort can be met. This applies equally to emotion. Loss, disappointment, and injustice are unavoidable. What multiplies their weight is the belief that they should not exist. The Stoic abandons this belief. He understands that difficulty is not a deviation from life, but part of its structure. This understanding does not remove pain. It removes surprise. When hardship arrives, it is met with recognition rather than outrage. This recognition preserves dignity. It prevents the descent into bitterness that corrodes character over time. Anger toward injustice deserves careful handling. Stoicism does not excuse wrongdoing. It distinguishes between response and reaction. To respond is to act according to reason. To react is to surrender control. The disciplined mind resists the temptation to become what it opposes. Many exhaust themselves by carrying moral outrage without constructive action. The Stoic asks whether anger improves judgment or impairs it. If it clouds reason, it is set aside. If it can be converted into measured action, it is used sparingly and released. Desire for certainty is another attachment that quietly undermines stability. People want assurance that their efforts will lead somewhere, that suffering has meaning, that the future will justify the present. Stoicism offers no such guarantees. It offers something more durable: alignment with reality as it is. When expectations loosen, perception sharpens.
You stop bargaining with fate and start cooperating with it. Fate, in Stoic thought, is not an adversary. It is the unfolding of causes beyond your choosing. Resisting it wastes energy. Working within it refines character. This refinement requires humility, not humiliation, but accurate self-assessment. You are not exempt from error. You are not owed ease. You are not the center of events. These truths, once accepted, relieve pressure. The performance ends. Life becomes participation rather than audition. In relationships, this manifests as presence without possession. You care deeply, without attempting to control outcomes. You speak honestly, without demanding agreement. You give without keeping score. This form of engagement is calmer and more sustainable. Ego resists this because it thrives on comparison. Stoicism starves comparison by grounding worth in conduct.
Whether others advance faster, receive more, or appear happier becomes irrelevant. Their path is not yours to walk. The disciplined mind does not withdraw from ambition. It clarifies it. Ambition directed outward seeks dominance. Ambition directed inward seeks coherence. The latter endures. As time passes, this inward discipline accumulates quietly. Reactions soften, desires simplify, attention steadies. Life does not become easier, but it becomes less scattered. This is not a transformation others will necessarily notice. It is one you will feel in moments of pressure. When old patterns fail to reassert themselves, you pause, you choose, you proceed without spectacle. This is strength, without display. It is the kind that carries you through years, not moments. The discipline you build here determines whether the coming year will be governed by impulse or by principle. That choice is renewed daily. In small decisions that appear insignificant, they are not. They are the material from which character is formed. As discipline deepens, attention naturally turns toward time, not as a resource to exploit, but as a condition to respect. Modern life treats time as something to fill, optimize, or outrun. Stoicism treats it as something to be understood. Time is not abundant. It is not guaranteed. It is the medium through which character is expressed. Mortality is not a distant abstraction. It is a constant, though often ignored. The Stoics did not dwell on death to provoke fear, but to restore proportion. When you remember that life is finite, trivial concerns lose authority. What remains is the question of how to live well within limits. Many live as if time will eventually compensate for neglect. They postpone discipline, clarity, and courage, assuming there will be a later moment when conditions improve. Stoicism rejects this assumption. Later is not promised. Even if it arrives, it will arrive as another present moment, demanding the same capacities you are either building now or avoiding. This awareness sharpens responsibility without creating urgency. There is no need to rush. There is only the need to be honest about what matters. When time is seen clearly, distraction appears costly, not because it is immoral, but because it is wasteful. Impermanence extends beyond life itself. Health changes, roles dissolve, relationships evolve or end, status fades. None of this is personal. It is structural. The disciplined mind prepares not by clinging harder, but by loosening appropriately. This does not mean indifference. It means appreciation without dependence. You enjoy what is present while acknowledging its temporary nature. When change comes, grief may arise, but panic does not. You have rehearsed impermanence in thought, so it does not arrive as betrayal. Fear of the future often masks fear of incapacity. People are less afraid of what will happen than of how they will respond. Stoic discipline addresses this directly. You do not need to predict the future if you trust your ability to meet it with reason.
This trust is earned, not assumed. It is built through daily acts of self-command. Each time you endure discomfort without collapse, you prove capability. Each time you choose principle over convenience, you strengthen reliability. Over time, fear loses credibility. The Stoics understood that fate operates impartially. It does not target or reward, it unfolds. Resisting this reality creates friction. Accepting it creates cooperation. Acceptance here is not resignation, it is alignment with necessity. When events unfold unfavorably, the disciplined mind asks how to respond well, not why this happened. The question of why often leads nowhere useful. The question of how keeps agency intact. This perspective changes how success and failure are understood. Success is not defined by permanence. Failure is not defined by loss. Both are temporary configurations. What endures is the quality of response. Time also reveals the cumulative nature of neglect. Small evasions, repeated daily, shape a life as surely as deliberate action. The Stoics warned against drifting. Drift feels comfortable, but it carries you without consent. Discipline counters drift by restoring intention. You may not control duration, but you control direction. Each day, you choose whether your attention serves impulse or principle. These choices compound quietly. A calm mind is not passive. It is alert without agitation. It notices opportunity without desperation. It recognizes threat without panic. This composure is not innate. It is trained. The approach of a new year often invites reflection, framed as reinvention. Stoicism offers a steadier view. You are not starting over. You are continuing. The habits you carry forward will either strengthen or erode you. Mortality clarifies this continuity. There is no separate life later in which discipline suddenly matters. This is the life. This is the field of practice. Waiting is a form of avoidance. This realization does not diminish joy. It deepens it. When time is valued, moments are inhabited more fully. Presence replaces haste. Gratitude replaces entitlement. The Stoic does not measure life by intensity of experience, but by consistency of character. A quiet day lived in alignment outweighs dramatic moments lived in confusion. As 2026 approaches, many will prepare externally. Fewer will prepare internally. External preparation can be undone by circumstance. Internal preparation travels with you. The discipline you build now determines how you will age, how you will face loss, how you will respond to uncertainty. It determines whether time will feel like an enemy or a companion. This discipline does not announce itself. It is invisible, steady, and decisive. It is built now or not at all. Time does not ask for permission. It moves forward without explanation, carrying everything with it. Plans, identities, relationships, strength, and youth all pass through it and are altered. The Stoics did not treat this as tragedy. They treated it as truth. When you stop arguing with time, something settles. You no longer demand permanence from what is temporary. You no longer expect the world to hold still while you decide how to live. You accept that each day is a narrowing field of opportunity to act with clarity. This is not meant to create pressure. It is meant to eliminate illusion. Most people suffer not because life is short, but because they live as if it were endless. They postpone difficult conversations, avoid necessary discipline, and tolerate inner disorder, assuming they will correct it later. Later becomes a habit. Years pass quietly in avoidance. Stoicism removes this refuge. It asks you to live as a steward of limited time, not in haste, not in fear, but in alignment. You do not rush through life. You stop wasting it. Mortality reframes priorities. Many concerns that dominate attention lose their grip when measured against finitude. Recognition fades.
Grievances soften. The urge to impress dissolves. What remains is the desire to live without internal contradiction. This is the heart of Stoic discipline. To think one thing and do another is exhausting. To say you value calm while feeding agitation is incoherent. Discipline restores unity. It brings thought, word, and action into agreement. Impermanence does not make effort meaningless. It makes effort honest. You act well, not because it will last forever, but because it is right now. You tell the truth, not because it guarantees reward, but because it preserves integrity. You endure difficulty, not because it will end, but because you can meet it with dignity. Fate will continue to shape circumstances beyond your choosing. Health may change, plans may collapse, people may leave. None of this removes your ability to choose your response. That ability remains until the end. The Stoics did not promise peace as a feeling. They promised steadiness as a capacity. The trained mind does not avoid pain. It avoids panic. It does not escape loss. It escapes self-betrayal. As the year turns, many will look outward for signs of what is coming. The Stoic looks inward and asks a quieter question. Is his mind prepared? Are my judgments clear? Is my conduct aligned with my principles? The answer to these questions is not given in words. It is revealed in daily behavior. The discipline you build now will not shield you from difficulty. It will determine whether difficulty shapes you or breaks you. It will decide whether you meet the coming year with resentment or resolve, distraction or direction. If this reflection has clarified something you already sensed but had not yet named, remain with this practice. Return to it, strengthen it. This channel exists to support that work. Not to motivate, but to remind. Not to promise change, but to cultivate readiness. Stay and continue building the discipline that carries you forward. Nothing in this reflection requires belief, optimism, or hope. It requires only honesty. Honesty about what you can control. Honesty about what you cannot. Honesty about how you are currently living, not how you plan to live later. Stoicism does not ask you to become someone new. It asks you to stop being divided, to stop saying one thing matters while living as if it does not, to stop waiting for clarity to arrive from outside when it can only be built from within. The discipline discussed here is quiet. It will not announce itself at the start of a year. It will not feel dramatic or transformative. It will feel ordinary, repetitive, at times uncomfortable. That is how you know it is real. Each day offers small tests. How you respond to irritation, whether you act with care when no one is watching, whether you speak truthfully without needing approval, whether you accept what is given without complaint, and correct what is yours to correct without delay. These moments do not look important, but they accumulate over months. They shape temperament. Over years, they shape character. Over a lifetime, determine whether you lived deliberately or drifted. The year ahead will not ask whether you feel ready. It will arrive fully formed. What you bring into it is the only variable you control, not circumstances, not outcomes, only judgment, intention, and conduct. Stoicism offers no escape from reality. It offers alignment with it. That alignment is what produces calm under pressure, restraint under temptation, and clarity under uncertainty. If you continue with this practice, return often to first principles. Ask what belongs to you. Act where you can act. Accept where you must accept. Remove excess. Refine judgment. Repeat. This channel exists for those who choose that path, not for spectacle, not for comfort, but for steady cultivation of a disciplined mind in a disordered world. If that work matters to you, remain here, reflect, practice, continue. The discipline you build now is already becoming you.